everyone. I am interviewing a lovely lady today by the name of Ashlee Yap, who is the owner and operator of Moist Planties, a fabulous little indoor plant shop that's tucked away in the back streets of Exeter. I'd say the Port Adelaide area, Ashlee. Semaphore area, a bayside suburb of Adelaide. And we have crossed paths a number of times over the last few months, Ashlee, and I am pleased to welcome you to the show.
Oh, I'm pleased that you're having me.
Ashlee, we're recording this episode in your lovely home. It's a glorious sunny day, and I've had the wonderful experience of seeing your gorgeous setup. Can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and how you set up Moist Planties? The name is fascinating, by the way.
It always gets people talking.
It sure does.
So I started Moist Planties basically on a bit of a whim. I obviously have an obsession with plants, and that obsession just sort of spurred to help people with plants or just talk to anyone about plants whenever I could. So I've got this beautiful sunroom out the front, and it gets perfect lighting, and plants love it. So I just sort of started doing that. Yeah, just started bringing plants in and selling them, and just posting about different plants and just for the love of them, really.
It's a gorgeous sunroom. Can you paint a bit of a word picture for our listeners?
So my house was built in 1910. The sunroom is probably the most original piece of the house. It was actually the lady who owned this house slept in there. And it is probably a bit of a mixture of vintage cane, big open windows onto the street, and completely separate from my house. So it's just a perfect sort of shop location that people can come in and have a look around and just have a look at all the plants, and west facing with
gorgeous vintage prints sort of scattered everywhere, and the canes to die for. Some of you might know that I do love cane furniture, but it's got a lovely soulful vibe.
Yeah, I just wanted it to be a place where when you see the plants in it, it's kind of like looking at what they'll look like in your own home, and just have a bit of character, bit of warmth, more of a personalised feel to looking at plants.
Absolutely. I think you mentioned when we had a chat before this podcast started that, like pretty much all of us who ventured into selling plants, you started off as a collector.
Yes, absolutely.
And was that something that bit you sort of recently, the bug, so to speak?
Probably more recently. Probably about 3 years ago, I started picking up plants here and there.
Yep.
I have a huge flair for interior design, and I'm always sort of moving things around my house or adding things that I find, and plants sort of were just one of those things that I could add and make. It just made the room. But early on, I think I just thought I could buy plants and put them where I wanted them to be.
Yes.
And so lost a few.
Yes, as many of us do.
Yes, lost a few, and then just kept replacing them until I sort of got it right. But really, I got into the plant thing a lot more once I had my son.
Right.
And I think it was just because having a child is so intense and it's so constant that once he was asleep or was entertained, I was then able to do something for myself, like look after my plants or just, touch their foliage.
Yeah, repot them, perhaps propagate some cuttings.
Yeah.
It's quite therapeutic in a way.
Absolutely,
for many of us.
yeah. Yeah.
It's also thrilling, when they shoot new shoots or sprout, and easily sort of it's a hobby that you can pursue also online in terms of sourcing new plants, whether it be from eBay or following certain Facebook groups. But it's a fabulous hobby to have, one that you've now turned into, I guess, would we call it a side hustle, a small business, all of the above. You just mentioned you have a son. How have you found managing motherhood and running this small business, are you managing it by perhaps only opening part-time hours?
Yeah, so I open by arrangement.
Right.
So generally if somebody will contact me and they want to come by on a Tuesday at 11 o'clock, if it suits me, then welcome. It is tricky because obviously he changes with age and he goes through stages where he's a bit of a terror, but he loves plants.
Lovely.
And so he's always sort of in there being his little character when I've got customers come by. But yeah, I open weekends when I can, and then during the week whenever it sort of suits me and then suits my clients. But it is a struggle to sort of juggle the motherhood and the business to try and keep on top of posting and that sort of thing as well.
But obviously one that brings you great joy.
Absolutely.
When it's a passion or something that's a great love, you will put in the work.
Yeah, for sure.
I have also seen you at some of the local, your range at some of the local markets around Adelaide.
Yeah, so I got into the markets. I started just with my own local Semaphore twilight markets, and then from there I sort of got the confidence to start doing gillies at the showgrounds, and then from then I'm just trying to pick and choose which ones I sort of want to be at, and then try and do about 2 a month. Just to sort of bring my plants to
where the people are.
Yeah, where the people are. So, some people might not want to come to they might not know what I'm sort of all about with the sunroom and everything. So it's nice to go to them and sort of introduce myself and make it a bit more of a personal, more of a fun personal experience for them. Your
customer base, is it people who you observe, whether they come to your home shop here or whether you meet them at the markets? Is it the same? Are they the same type of customer, or are you finding you get some people who are brand new to the scene, collectors? Is it a scattering?
It's pretty good scattering. All of my customers are super lovely with plant people. They have been. It's really lovely that I meet these people, and I've made friends through my customers who now, give me their wish lists, and I will then track down what they want, or if something comes in, they're the first people I message, and it's lovely. And, I go to markets and meet people of all different ages, kids who love plants as well.
So they'll come up and have a look at what you've got on offer and talk to you.
Mum and Dad will be like, yep, choose a plant, choose a pot. And they're so excited about it. And it's so lovely just to meet all different people, older people who have been gardening for years and have never seen some of these plants before.
Wow.
New people who just know that they want to add some greenery to their room or whatever. And it's a perfect opportunity to sort of just share my passion with them, and then see that their experience grows and their collection grows on.
Something I discussed previously with Alice McDonald in the podcast I recorded with Alice, who owns Pozzo Botanica. Very much I'm noticing the trend both here and Melbourne, when I was there recently, and indeed New South Wales, Sydney area, is this development of indoor plant shops, which are really just there to supply amazing plants and some beautiful pots, not the typical. Do you think there's a bit of a move away from the sort of garden centre where you can buy the potting mix and the chemical supplies? It's really this curated range of shops, which I guess you can go to Bunnings for the potting mix, can't you? And all those ancillary supplies.
I love that there's shops there just for the plants themselves, and I think for design as well, it looks beautiful to not have something so cluttered with all different plants and products and stuff like that. It really sort of shows you how they'll look in your house, and a bit more of a tailored customized shop for these sort of things. I really love going back to my local nursery for my potting mix and for different mixtures and accessories and stuff like that, because I don't want to take away from like the local nursery scene. But I think it makes the plant stand out a lot more when it's less of a cluttered sort of fit as much gardening accessories as you can in
Yes,
and
yes.
give more of a tailored look at how they'll sit in your home.
It's really become almost a specialised
Absolutely.
niche.
Yeah.
Just to see it as you've described, just the plants in a sort of beautiful environment against the white walls or black
Yeah.
walls in Pozzo's case.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, you mentioned to me that today, I think we're recording the episode, and it's the 27th of March. You're about to head off to
Yes.
Melbourne to see the amazing... now, it's the exhibition, the Melbourne Garden.
Yeah.
The formal title, Melbourne Garden Exhibition.
Yeah, I just keep calling it the Plant and Garden show.
I've been seeing a lot of Instagram feeds where various shops are setting up. I think I've seen
Collector's Corner.
Collector's
I think, have got
Corner,
a bit.
Botanica Boutique. I follow them on Instagram. That their setups amazing shows. I'm really excited that you're going
I'm so
across.
excited. It really, I mean, we've been planning to go for a Melbourne trip, my husband and my son, and he just did a little bit of research and said, "Oh, this show's on in March. Let's go to that."
Go.
I was, yeah, absolutely. And I'm really excited to check out a few of the nurseries and things like that around Fitzroy and that sort of area, because I've never really looked when I've been there. So I'm excited to see what sort of setups they've got and maybe just meet a few people from over there. And yeah, I'm very excited. And just to see, you know, the botanical gardens and all the setups of all the different stalls.
Yeah, you've almost become
thrilled.
you're there as a plant tourist almost
Yes,
to see the
I know.
show. I'm sure you'll upload a few photos to your
yeah.
Instagram when you're over there.
Absolutely.
So I'm quite envious of that. It's it looks amazing, and I think a great opportunity for anyone to get some inspiration. Leaf and Bear is another one I've noticed online, setting up this exquisite, what they're calling, I think, a Versace garden or something like that. But they've got kokedama balls hanging. There's lush, thick display of foliage behind a sort of velvet Chesterfield couch, which took my breath away. Stuff of dreams. So you
It's
enjoy
dangerous.
yourself, Ashlee.
Yeah, it's going to be dangerous, but yeah, I'm going to drag the boys along. And
Now, your husband, he's a supportive and sympathetic plant lover by default. Is that a good way to
by
describe
default,
him?
absolutely. Yeah. I think Moist Planties also generated from, you've got too many plants, what are we going to do? And it was sort of, well, I guess I could sell some.
Yes. And then obviously he absorbs your plant knowledge by default as well.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're proud of him when he'll mention, that Monstera Adansoni over there.
Every so often he will throw out a bit of a name bomb on a plant, and I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm sure it actually helps when you have a supportive partner, and I do have one as well who's in the same position of his acquired plant knowledge and builder of my many glass houses. So I'm very,
lovely. Yes,
very.
no, I've also got mine to construct a few plant related spaces since, and he's even decked out his shop with some plants as well,
beautiful.
because I think he's just been surrounded by all these plants for so long that he was probably feeling a little bit stressed that he didn't have some with him, and good air.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, how wonderful. Well, that you really enjoy yourself, but I can't I can't sort of move on before asking you, do you have a particular favourite genus? Are you dictated by the space that you live in, so therefore you're accepting of the light requirements?
Yes.
Can you tell me your approach to how you choose for your own home indoor plants?
I think my first I go by the aesthetic, because I'm terrible with my interior design. If it doesn't sort of suit, then I have to find something that will.
Yes.
But I've got sort of lowish light in the afternoon. It does come through. We put in some extra windows to help with the plant addiction.
Yes.
But I am a huge Syngonium fan.
Right.
So I probably have a Syngonium in every room. So definitely an aroid lover.
Yes.
But yeah, generally I will go for low light plants in most cases, just because my light is very sporadic throughout the day. And then I generally just keep an eye on everything. And if I don't think it's doing well, I'll move it. even if it is doing well, I'll probably move it because I can't have something in one spot for too long.
No. But there is something satisfying. I started to fall down that rabbit hole of having to only want rare and hard to find.
Yeah.
And that's certainly an itch to scratch. Goodness knows I've scratched that one a lot. But there's something to be said about a luscious, thick, healthy devil's ivy vine, which is what I'm looking at right now, Monstera deliciosa.
Yeah.
A peppering of syngoniums everywhere, and my goodness, they couldn't look healthier.
Yeah. I mean, it is hard once you sort of think of rare plants. You just sort of go, oh, I need it. But a lot of the rare plants that I've got don't love it in my house. They just don't really go there. They love my studio, so I generally just sort of sell them because I do love rare plants, but I also love the variegation on just a basic syngonium or just different philodendrons that aren't overly rare, but they bring me joy. So I basically bring anything in that just sparks a bit of joy. Begonias, spotted begonias, the rubras with like the orange flowers. I sort of just match things in my house with my plants. So yeah, I have a bit of a change every few weeks or so.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you'd probably share this view that there's some kind of intangible energy, and I feel like I repeat this most episodes, but there is an energy that they give off to a room. It's a softening of the room. Yeah. It's actually there's a life force that I can't quite put my finger on that changes the feng shui and just makes it just so calming and peaceful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. I just adore them. Hence why we're doing this podcast. What are you noticing in terms of customer requests, demands? Is it still the people who want, for example, variegation from my perspective, has still been a big driving force in customer requests?
Absolutely.
What trends are you noticing? What requests are people making? Is it still for the rare and hard to find?
It is, yeah. A lot of people still want the whitest plants.
Right.
I find that funny. Sometimes I'll have, a variegated Hoya or something, and I'll have a few customers say, can you get a whiter one?
Wow.
And I mean, that's fair enough if you really like a really white plant, even though those leaves are probably fleeting. But that's probably been one of my biggest trends is people want white plants.
I've certainly noticed that. And I must admit the plants that might be green with yellow variegation are far less in demand.
Absolutely.
It's obviously the trend, but the one that's lasting a while. I
agree.
If I can plot the trends from my own perspective, it was obviously the fiddle leaf fig 2-3 years ago, huge. Now I know correctly, Pilea. I used to call it Pilea, but Pilea.
I'm a Pilea. I just say Pilea.
Pilea or Pilea. Peperamides was huge. I was again talking to Alice McDonald in the last episode about, I do remember, it must have been 18 months ago, 2 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, $180 for a Pilea on eBay. Now, my goodness, they are, very common and readily accessible.
I actually don't even stock them anymore because they are easy to find at most places, and some of the bigger places can sell them ridiculously cheap, so I can't even compete with it. So I haven't bothered, but watermelon peperomias still in demand. Still in demand, although I have had a couple for a couple of weeks now that haven't gone, which is interesting. But the trends sort of change day to day. I kind of check my Instagram a lot because my Instagram's just flooded with plants. And the trends on Instagram generally do translate a little while later with the plant bizzo. So a lot of the Monstera
Standlianas or
a lot of that I'm seeing.
Yep.
A lot of interesting anthuriums, and I mean, the more I've been doing this, the more I follow aroid pages and more I see plants that I've never seen before and people who want them that I've never really come across them. So the demand for things is probably a bit too high for little old Adelaide. We don't really get those sort of plants in very often. So people really love their Instagram feeds.
They do, don't they?
And they love to find, I get requests for things all the time, and they're exactly what's on my wish list, and I have not been able to track them down. And I just have to put people on hold lists until I one day find them.
The big thing, which I think is tailing off just a little off the boil, the variegated monstera.
Yes.
You'd be well aware of the
Yes.
huge prices those plants are obtaining, namely on eBay, but the demand for that is huge.
Yeah, I think every customer I have, when I say, what are you after? What's on your wish list?
Yeah.
It's, how easy is it for you to get a variegated monstera? And I just laugh.
Yeah. Of course, now we've got the variants of the Thai constellation,
Yes.
which is the sort of, well, how can I best describe it? Most people listening to this would know, but it's almost the dots and freckling.
I
of
do
the
have
leaf.
one.
You have one.
I have one, yes.
How fabulous. I'm sure it's on your Instagram feed at some point, or not yet?
It is, yeah. It's teeny tiny little baby guy. And, you know, it's one of those things that you want to plant for ages, and then when you get it, you're like, that was a bit of a... I actually swapped it for something that I had that I didn't know was rare.
Right.
And somebody really wanted it. So
Okay.
I was happy that I didn't spend a fortune on it, because it was a bit of a letdown when I got it.
Yeah. Yes, it's
Until
typical
it
like that.
grows.
Until it grows.
Until it grows.
And then if I could dare to step out and call the sort of the more posh version is the Borsigiana.
Oh, yes.
The marbling is divine on that one.
Beautiful.
It
Yeah.
kind of leaves me speechless. I have two that were gifted to me, would you believe, by
Gosh.
a customer when I first met her.
Oh,
I can't people.
lovely.
Oh gosh, I'm forever indebted to her.
See,
And,
plant people are the best.
the best, and shout out to Susie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, amazing, and that one absolutely does take my breath
Yeah,
away.
I bet.
Oh, so, but in any event, yeah, you're right. All of those plants we're discussing, there is a splash of white on the foliage,
Yeah.
even with the Standardianas.
Yeah.
I think that's going to carry on for a while.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's something about it. But I mean, even though I look at my sort of basic syngoniums, and their variegation is so gorgeous that I could just look at those all the time as well.
I think we're talking about a particularly Syngonium fantasy.
Oh, yeah, I just picked up a few of
I
those.
did see them when I walked in, so if anyone listening to this is after some, head
They
over
are
to Moist
beautiful.
Planties.
Yeah, beautiful.
Oh, good. And now I'm going to just take everyone to the next topic I wanted to touch base with you on is, and you can see this on Ashlee's Instagram page. Recently, one of the markets Ashlee attended was what was
the feast.
The feast
on the
market.
foreshore. So the
And-
LGBT
Yeah.
QIA plus.
Yes. And Ashlee, together with her husband, made these, I found them very artistic. These pots, what should we call them? Genital pots?
Yes, genital pots.
Genital
I
pots?
called them my Rudy pots.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were very fun to make. And we made them for the Feast Festival. So my husband and I made some, and my sister-in-law made a couple as well. So it was a bit of a family affair.
Now, I need to clarify, your husband is exceptionally artistic. So I've just found out he's a tattoo artist.
Yeah,
so you
he
can imagine
is.
the baseline artistic creativity that exists to be
Yeah.
a tattoo artist. But you sold out.
Yes, we sold all of them, and 50% of the proceeds went back to Feast. So Feast help a lot with the artist, like LGBTQIA plus artists, and they do a lot of sponsorships for different. They have like drop-in centres and things like that. It's just a bit of a support network for South Australian members, and yeah, they do a lot of festivals and things like that. So I just wanted to give back to them, and just have a bit of fun. They were such a good conversation starter.
I was just going to ask you because, having a plant store at that festival would have been a huge draw card. A lot of your people attending the festival would have been all over the indoor plant scene.
Yeah.
And then to have those pots on display and for sale, I can
Yeah.
only imagine it would have been a mixture of laughs.
Oh, it was amazing.
of-
It was so much fun.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah. You just have people who would come in and see them and just break out into laughter. And then you'd have the people who would just laugh and go, I need to go get my nan.
Yeah.
And then you'd have them come in and just, you'd expect sort of a bit of a prudish response, but it was oh, they're beautiful. You
They
know,
actually,
and
that was my first response.
Yeah.
I for all the laugh factor that might be at first blush associated with them, they were very artistic. So it's a
Yeah.
credit to your husband primarily who did them.
Thank you.
And obviously, this leads me to the next point. Plants, indoor plants in particular, just cross all facets of society.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you obviously receive a lot of support from customers, both existing and new, at these markets and people who come here.
Yeah.
What do you think is the trend? Do you think this is a trend that's going to stay, Ashlee, in terms of plants being...
I think it will.
Right.
I think it will. I think it's, I mean, for me, with my business, because I've got this incredible platform now that I've got these followers and these people who are interested in plants, I think that they also, especially the younger generation, there's a shift of what's acceptable and just different culture and different sort of understanding of your body and yourself and what's right and what's wrong these days. And I think that was a bit of an expression with my Rooty Pots, was that people welcome that, because there's been such a generation shift of how things were meant to be before, when things were hidden and things were kept secret and that sort of thing. And now it's sort of the time where things come out and people are honest and people can talk and they feel a bit more supported. And Moist Planties has that platform that I can reach people who not only love plants, but they also love to support local, or they like to support different fundraisers that we might have, and just that it's just a bit more of a chilled environment, I find. And that's sort of what I'm aiming for, is to do a few new things and have a bit more of a community based, like have a lot more of like an inclusive sort of environment.
Absolutely. You're certainly breaking down a lot of barriers, even with the name choice. When I first came across it, I went, oh, wow, okay. Yeah. And I think you said when we first met, it can be a bit divisive at first. People either love it or hate the name.
Absolutely, yes.
But so very much, do you think you'll just carry on as you are for a while?
Yeah.
And maybe as you grow and expand, as you said, into the community sector, but potentially, do you think you'll ever come to a point of having a shop, Ashlee?
I'd love to have a shop.
Right.
I would love to. At the moment where I'm at with my son and having this sunroom, it's so perfect for me to be able to choose my own hours and have people come to me and also go to them. It just works really well. Probably later on down the track when my son goes to school, or if it happens, I'd love to have a shop. Yep. I'd really like to stick to my own community as well. Yes. So it would have to be a few different factors that would all come together, but I'd definitely foresee something like that in the future. I'm at the moment trying to add a few extra things, like personalised plant labels and like hand illustrated prints and things like that. So there's a few things in the works, as well as sort of posting interstate and that sort of thing that I'm trying to get myself into. But yeah, there's definitely big things. I don't see it sort of slowing down anytime
You
soon.
sound like you're just, to me, as if you're going to evolve with where sort of the life and customer requests and demands take you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just sort of follow that energy, whichever way that takes you.
Yeah.
Which is a great way to go about it. But I can completely understand the approach you're taking at the moment. As a mum with 3 young kids myself, it certainly precludes me from being in any physical shop space.
Yeah, that's it.
And I guess that's the beauty of the internet and the modern age and Instagram, and
absolutely
you can reach out to the world. Anything on your wish list before we say goodbye on the podcast today?
I have got a lot of things on my wish list, and most of them are all in my head. Because most of them I can't pronounce, or I forget their names, and I've just sort of I've sort of just screenshotted, but I'm really loving the lightning bolt jewel orchid.
Oh, yes, I have seen that. Oh, yes, I know.
There's also one that I've seen on your website that I'm after. It's a Anthurium Vici?
Well, I say Vici, but I'm sure we'll be corrected.
Vici.
I'm an equal fellow novice at the Latin pronunciation, so we're in a safe space here, Ashlee. Because when I'm put under pressure, in my head I can say it very clearly, but when it comes out aloud, not so much. But I call it, some people say Vici, or some people say, let's say Vici. I know exactly which one you mean. I sadly lost a lot of those over the summer heat wave. It's devastating.
God, isn't that awful?
I've got these sort of hideous brown stumps that are in pots that taunt me repeatedly. But that was brutal, the summer here in Adelaide.
Yeah, it was crazy. I'm still recovering from some things that luckily I didn't lose anything, but a lot of things I couldn't resell because they're just a bit too crispy and they just need a bit of TLC and
yes,
a bit of things like that. Yeah, probably there's a lot of anthuriums. I've been getting into anthuriums a lot lately. And also the claverinum.
Yes, right.
I'm a bit of a sucker for anything that's got like a nice distinct vein.
So yeah, all the really hard stuff it's hard to find and all that. Yeah,
all the difficult things. They're all the things I need.
It is a challenge for us being in South Australia. We have a hobby that sort of taunts us in that everything we want is pretty much in the tropical climates of North Queensland, but that's okay. We like a challenge.
Yeah,
obviously.
That's right. It will happen when it happens. They'll come to me.
They will come. But no, it's a fabulous hobby to have, and for many of us, it just turns into a passion. And it's interesting who it captures in its wake. And it's
absolutely.
Men, women.
I have even like my mum. She is a plant killer. Always has been, and she has really gotten into it, and she's been listening to me, and she'll message me and ask me, this is happening to my caladium, what do I do? And I've been trying.
Yes.
But it does, it's one of those things that you catch it and you love the way that it feels in your house, or and you just want to keep adding to it. You just want to have that feeling of having something that you're looking after and you're loving. And no, it's a beautiful hobby and it doesn't hurt anybody. It's such a perfect balance of clean breathing. And
I should say you are doing really well. It's obviously the right plant selection. That everything I'm looking at in this gorgeous, I want to call it vintage chic lounge room.
Yeah,
that's
it's my organised chaos, I guess.
Your organised treasures. There's lovely cane planters everywhere. There's retro prints on the wall. My heaven. But everything looks healthy, and it's obviously a mixture of the right plant selection.
Yes.
Not overwatering or underwatering.
I am a very underwaterer.
Yes.
I will let everything get bone dry before I give it a drink. That's my biggest tip to everybody that comes in and they've killed plants. Just let it go a little bit longer, or just feel the leaves, get used to what the leaves are meant to feel like, what the soil's meant to feel like, what the lightness of the pot. That's my biggest tip to everyone, is just don't water. And then water. Absolutely, because there's not a fungal gnat to be seen. No, I've busted those guys.
You have busted those guys, and I think it's, again, I'm going to reference Alice in the last podcast, it shares your view that, in her opinion, it's sort of the overwatering that can really contribute to a fungal gnat explosion. But I can vouch for it personally. There's not a gnat to be seen. Ashlee, thank you so much. This has been such a joy to meet you finally in your gorgeous home.
Thank you so much.
Such a lovely energy here. And so if you are a local of Adelaide, or you're visiting Adelaide, you definitely have to come and see Ashlee.
Yes.
Just maybe message in advance just to make sure she's here.
I'm usually open Saturdays, most Saturdays that I'm not in Melbourne on a plant show. Most Saturdays, and by arrangement, and then all the markets.
And your Instagram, I'm going to say Instagram handle, Ashlee, is that correct?
Yes.
I feel like that's a Twitter term, but your Instagram handle is Moist Planties.
Yes.
Is that the best way for people to contact you?
Probably, either Facebook page, or Instagram, whatever's easier.
And all your address details would be on there.
Absolutely, my directions, which I finally got Facebook to recognise, and all of that jazz.
You have a fabulous time in Melbourne.
Thank you.
I'm
so
very excited.
I'll try and not bring things.
And make sure you share photos for the rest of us.
Yes, I will.
See you, Ashlee.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Home of Houseplants. I really do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I would love for you to subscribe and leave a review, as it does help many others find the podcast and in particular those that share the passion, the obsession that is growing indoor plants. I would like to give a shout out to Music Bed for the fabulous cool beats that you've heard during the course of this podcast and throughout the episodes. Home of Houseplants has a licensing agreement with musicbed.com to support the artists, both emerging and established. If you do wish to contact me, please do so via Instagram at Home of Houseplants or via my email address, which you can easily find on the website, homeofhouseplants.com.au. Please enjoy the week, the day, your evening, whatever time you are listening to this podcast, and I look forward for you to join me on the next episode, whenever that will be in the future. Bye, guys.